Hello, everybody. Welcome to MORE-VILLE, ORVILLE, the podcast that reviews the ORVILLE. This is Mike Allen, joined by G.I. Jolie.
Hi, everybody. This is my NPR podcast voice.
And joining us for our smooth jazz episode is Champ Ian.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, I can't anymore.
All right. First up, today we're going to review an episode of the ORVILLE called From Unknown Graves. This is episode, 33?
Something like
Of
that.
the show?
I think it's 33. Oh, both. Of MORE-VILLE, ORVILLE, and the ORVILLE. Episode 33, I believe.
It's funny how that works out.
I know, eh? What a coincidence.
Oh, yeah,
It's
that's
the secret.
right. We don't have any filler episodes.
Yeah.
I was like, how did that work? Oh, duh. Anyway.
It was actually planned that way. As you guys know, yeah, we went on a rampage earlier this year, reviewing 3 to 5 episodes a week, because we thought that the season was going to start much sooner. Remember, it was supposed to start in March. We were freaking out, but it didn't. It started in June. But anyway, so yeah, Champ Ian is going to give us the Reader's Digest summary of From Unknown Graves before we review it here.
I'll try and do that in my best podcast voice.
All
Oh,
right.
boy.
This, which is actually just my regular voice. Yes, a couple of plot threads in this episode. We meet a new race of people called the Genesi, which the Union is trying to form an alliance with to help out with the war against the Kalon, and with the alliance with the Krill having fallen apart. They meet this race of staunchly matriarchal people, and they need to essentially put on an act to make it look like all the women are in charge and all the men are subservient in order to try to gain them into the fold. As well, we have Lamar and Tala are having some relationship issues. Lamar is in the hospital quite often as their frolics often turn, dangerous. But most interestingly, we have Isaac. We meet a Kalon that has had his emotions turned on. He's got Dr. Soong's emotions chip installed in his brain, and Isaac decides that he wants to get some emotions too, and in order to further his relationship with Claire. So we have some interesting stuff going on there with Isaac becoming a real live boy.
Oh, is that it?
That's there's some other stuff going on as well. There's some scenes with a family that gets their own pet Kalon, and
Yes.
it seems a little interesting that after this war with the Kalon that anyone would entertain such a dangerous proposition. But we find out that this isn't something that's happening now, and we learn a little bit of the backstory of the Kalon, Kalon, and how they became the murderous psychopaths that they are.
Yeah, so this episode is a little bit experimental, like Ian said. It's one of those ones where there's multiple plots going on, and one of them you're definitely not sure how it's going to tie in until maybe 3/4 of the way through, when Isaac reveals that. Is it Isaac or the other one that reveals it? It's the other one. Timus. He basically.
It's not. I don't think it's really revealed by Timus. It sort of happens as he is having a conversation. But prior to that, we have a little flashback to where we realize that this Kalon, that this family's been purchased, they're going to file a complaint, and this administrator says, "Oh, we've had 50,000 complaints."
Right.
And at that point, you start to put two and two together. Like, this is not
Right.
post-Kalon war. This had to have happened before. And he's illustrating his plans to essentially fit them with pain receptors to keep them in line.
Right. And we should point out this episode was written by David A. Goodman, and this is nothing against Seth MacFarlane because I think he is a good writer, but I think, this is an example of where another writer coming in and definitely putting a different spin on things, which I think was pretty clever, actually. Let's just talk about this episode. I thought it was another really good episode. Maybe not quite as good as the last two, but I thought even just talking about the structure of the episode alone was very clever, and it's something they've never done before, as far as I know. That's the first thing. I think, I don't know, to be honest, I think my least favorite thing about this episode was the crew of the Orville pretending to have the men be subservient to them to trick the ambassadors or whatever they were. I mean, that was fine, but in an episode of everything else being so good, I thought that was the weakest part. That's my first take. What did you guys think?
Ladies first. Well, I guess in theme with the show, I'm just gonna railroad Ian first. No, I agree and disagree about the whole Genesi subplot. I didn't mind it. We got to see the crew do what the crew does best, which was
Be jackasses?
yeah, like be total jackasses, and it was fine. We also get a really cool scene, speaking of them being jackasses, with Lamar and Malloy. Again, they're just like in engineering and they're having a chat about his relationship. Lamar's
relationship
yeah,
with...
Lamar's relationship with Kiali, and how it's like, you know, he really likes her, but she's slaying and he's gonna die. Like, one of these times he's going to die. But no, the only reason why they needed to go down to that planet, they needed an excuse to go down to that planet, or they needed an excuse to be in the vicinity of that planet, because that's where they found Timus and the doctor.
Yeah.
Right? How did they find them again? Was it like a...
It was an energy surge or something from a mining planet that was, you know, ostensibly abandoned.
Yeah. So they go to what is it? They go to this planet. I just had the name up.
Situla 4.
And because it's neutral territory. Okay, cool. But honestly, they needed a catalyst to get Timus and the doctor in order to explore the story of why we deserved everything we got for creating Kalons. Or the race of people who created the Kalons were sickening, disgusting, and created a robot who could learn, and eventually learned AI, and then gave them the ability to feel pain instead of recalling all of the robots. They were like, no, we'll just go into phase 3. We knew this was inevitable. We'll just go into phase 3 and we'll give them pain receptors and shock collars. And they're not even like shock collars. They're just like disarming collars. They fall to... It's like they
just cut the marionette strings.
Right?
And they collapse on the ground.
And it is done in such a violent way, eh?
Yeah. And the Genesi plot is so minor that I'm trying to find reasons to hate it being the catalyst, but I don't.
Well, no, I guess it goes back to that one. It's like, okay, the episode itself all the episodes this season are longer. So you kind of go, okay, we have 3 subplots going here. How do they tie together? You could argue that what's the women's race called?
The Genesi.
The Genesi subplot, that ties in a little bit in making one gender subservient to the other. It's like making the Kalon subservient to the humans of the past, or the humanoids. But I just don't know how the Lamar and I should probably know these names by now. What's her name?
Tala Kiali.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how does that tie together to the theme, or does it need to? Ideally, I think it would, but it doesn't really, does it?
Not really. It's just some stuff that happened. It's it's moved forward some character development, and we were all a little shocked and excited to see the two of them hook up in the first place, I think, and it was just interesting to see. I don't know if they just ended it quickly because they didn't want to keep exploring it. They didn't want it to be a thing that they had to keep addressing. But it gave us some funny little moments too, right? Like that scene at the very end when Tala is just crying in bed, and then there's a slow pan back, and we see Lamar, and his face is all busted up.
Yep.
And he's trying to keep himself composed. He's like, yeah, I'm going to miss this too. And then he spits out a mouthful of teeth.
Oh, disgusting. It's like Rocky, eh?
Yeah.
Disgusting.
It's pretty disgusting.
So as far as the main plot with the Kalon, I thought that was really well done.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what an eye-opening way to explore basically the theme of slavery, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought it was really well done.
They did a fantastic job. I mean, it made the Kalon relatable, which after everything that they've done, I didn't think was possible. And I think that we all had a tinge of like, oh, this is a horrible thing that they did when we saw like in the Identity two-parter, the giant piles of bones in the chasms. Like, oh my goodness, what happened to this poor race of people? And as we're watching this family just order K1 around, it is this visceral disgust. I was like, yeah, I kind of understand. And when he just shot that family up, I was cheering him on.
Yep.
And the thing is they could have gone so much further, but all they did was show the mother and father kind of be not cruel but rude, and then the kids were the ones that were cruel.
Yeah.
But they could have gone a step further. Like if you think about movies about slavery, they could have gone the 12 years slave route and just showed like almost torture. But they didn't even need to. It was enough to get us on the Kalon side of with the little they show, which is interesting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then also we should point out that it also kind of resolves Charlie Burke's arc, right? So at the end of this episode, Charlie finally feels not remorse, but a little bit of guilt for being so judgmental about Isaac, because basically it's racism. The reason that she felt this way is she's judging him by his entire race, right? Because I don't think he specifically did anything bad, did he? In the battle?
Well, I mean, he kind of started it.
Yeah,
it was going to happen anyway. But he was the one who was gathering the information, and he was the mole. So he bears some responsibility, certainly.
Yeah, he was activated. However, it was like his relationship with the doctor and the boys potentially that made him realize, oh no, this is not for me. If the rest of the Kalon are going to kill, like, if the people that he works with, he must have, in his logical Kalon brain, been like, no, this is not good for me or most people that I am working with. So I will have to heel turn. Is that what the term is?
That's right. Well, okay. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it resolves Charlie Burke's it resolves her story arc, but it doesn't excuse her presence.
No,
it doesn't. Although I have to say that, I mean, her scenes with Isaac in the previous episode were, I'm going to say, borderline potentially endearing. That was okay. That softened my visceral hatred for her just a little bit. And then to see her come up to Isaac at the end of this episode with some humility and essentially say, okay, I kind of understand. I hate her a little bit less now too. It's
a little bit.
A little bit less.
Absolutely.
But still, I don't know.
I wouldn't sit beside her in the mess
hall. Fire her out of
hall.
an airlock.
I support those actions, actually. Yeah, we'll just like past K1, get her right in the sleep. Yeah, like I think honestly, it took, because it was not Isaac that apologized to her. It was K1, was it not?
It was.
Timus. Yeah. And the moment he did it, the moment he recognized, I want you to know, blah, 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 delivered his whole speech, I was like, oh no, I'm going to start liking her. No, it's not changed. That's fine.
But the danger was there, and that was
Yeah.
more than we expected at the beginning of this season.
Exactly.
Am I ever going to like this character? Hell no.
No.
Maybe. Still no. But
Yeah.
not quite as hate-filled.
Exactly. Everything, like all things in my life, are compared to Twilight, and she is the Rosalie of this story.
Which one was Rosalie?
For anyone who doesn't know, Rosalie was the older sister from the 20s who was raped and forced to have and lost her baby. And she's the one that was supposed to have a relationship with Edward. She's the bitter one, the oldest bitter daughter.
I've never seen a Twilight, so this is...
one
Oh,
with the
Ian,
curly
you're
blonde
missing
hair?
out. Anyway. Oh, geez. I see your face. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
She's the Rosalie. We hate her.
Put it on your list, Ian. Okay, so.
You're sitting in a podcast with a bunch of Twilight stands.
Come on, yeah. Team Edward. Anyway, so we should talk about the humor, because the humor is back to some extent in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
For example, they were awful. I was like, because the pause is what made it, because I was like, what is he going to say? And it's just so, like, understated. It's just funny as hell. I thought it was perfect. Anyway, that was great. Lamar and Mercer carrying the luggage. One of those jokes where it was like, it was so stupid, but they just ran with it. And I appreciated them just running it into the wall, literally.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
was
good,
so
good, good visual gag, too.
Right. And then, when the one alien woman was like, "Is this one taken? I will mate with him," or whatever. And then, what's his name?
Gordon Malloy.
Malloy was like, "I'll do it," and like no one even addresses him. No one in the room even addresses it. They just move on to the next thing. Is there anything I'm forgetting?
Yeah, when Gordon and Lamar are talking about his sex life with Tala, he's like, well, I mean, you could just wear a helmet every time, or you probably just have to wear a helmet every time. And Lamar says something as if to acknowledge, he's like, yeah, but I'm not going to do that. And he's like, that was a real suggestion.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
It's funny because I used to keep track of them, but I don't anymore. But I kind of wish I did, because I can't remember any other ones. But there was a few littered throughout for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There was a moment where Norm Macdonald's character Yaffe got kicked out of engineering, but I can't remember if anything happened there. Nothing big.
Oh, there was a good little bit of humor in that scene as well, where the big weird looking alien, is that the one that does the porno? And they're kicking him out, and he says something in his alien language, and they're like, well, no, what they might be able to tell, as though he's saying that he could pretend to be a woman in order to stick in engineering.
Yeah. Oh, that was funny.
You don't know that he says it, but it's implied.
Right.
Oh, I love when the credits roll, like the opening title credits roll, and it says special guest star Norm Macdonald, and I just breathe a sigh of relief, because I know I'm going to hear his voice and it's going to be funny. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to see Yaphet's slimy little body accompanied by that great comedic voice, and it's going to be funny.
And the sad thing is, now that we know he's gone, I wish they would have done more with him, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's too bad.
And we only have a couple more episodes of this season, and then that's going to be it for Yaphet.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, again, another solid episode.
I kind of want to talk about what did you guys think of the scene at the end where Isaac finally gets his emotions?
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
We got to discuss that scene.
Jeez.
I was will they, won't they for sure there, because you can't change Isaac's character that profoundly. You can't just give him emotions and then that's it for him for then. But that scene between him and Claire, I have to admit that I was getting a little teary-eyed.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was so well done. His acting, is the writing. Sorry, Jolie, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry.
But that's the thing is there's something magical about writing that you can't quantify where it is. But as it was happening in my head, I was like, it's not gonna last. I just knew there was something about it. Was like too good. It was too good to be true. It's like it's not gonna last. Something's gonna go wrong, and sure enough, something goes wrong.
And the reason for it was a little weak, in my opinion. Oh, he's just the wrong version of robot. It's never gonna stick. It did give an interesting little dilemma for Claire, for her to decide when Isaac surprisingly offered to erase his entire memory in order to make himself compatible with these emotions.
Which, okay. So I didn't really have a problem with the whole idea that he wasn't able to retain his feelings because he was a different model from Timus. However, I did find it a little unbelievable and not a stretch at all this time for them to be like, okay, well, we can do this, but we have to erase your memories. So you're telling me you can give the Kalon feelings, the ability to feel, but you can't download his memories.
I know.
And then re-upload them to his body. Like,
I know.
What?
You're right.
It kind of makes sense though, right? Like if the entire problem that he can't retain his emotions is that he's running the wrong, system software. That's basically it. And if you roll him back to a previous version, maybe you can't upload his memories. Maybe the older version won't accept them. Maybe there's a wrong format. Like there's a million reasons why that could be a thing.
But either way, the writers could do whatever they want. It's just a question of whether it's believable enough that we believe it, which it is, but it's also pushing the limits enough that it's kind of one of those you just have to run with it and suspend disbelief, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know what? In the end, I'm kind of glad. It was heartbreaking when he was like, oh no, Claire, I can't feel anymore. It was very like Cinderella, Stroke of Midnight, like that one episode of Buffy where like Angel is human, actually human, and they can be together, but at the stroke of midnight, he turns back into a vampire and he doesn't remember being with Buffy for the whole day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very like, it was super, super heart-wrenching. And I feel like we needed it for Claire's character too.
Yeah.
She needed to know what it was like, not to know what she was missing, but to know how to move on.
Well, the other thing too is that, of course, seeing this episode with Isaac, you're going to think of Data, right?
Of course.
Now, Data had his arc for 7 years where you're like, what's going to happen? Is he going to get emotions? Is he not going to get emotions? And then they kind of dropped the ball. And then in the first movie, Generations, they forced him to... Instead, like, ideally, I would have wanted him to naturally evolve and get emotions. But okay, if you're going to install this chip... And don't get me wrong, they kind of did some good with it because Brent Spiner's such a good actor that when he got the chip, he did a lot with it. But they dropped the ball with what they did with it plot-wise. Like, this show showed how well you can do it when you do it right? Mm-hmm. And it's one of those plots where once you do it, you kind of, like you just said, Ian, you fundamentally change the character. And they changed Data, kind of, but then the next movie, he could just shut it off, so it didn't really affect anything. So it was kind of like a plot convenience.
Oh yeah, big time.
Right, and so with this though, this show once again is doing it better. This is kind of like one of those, I don't know. I call it the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon plot formula, where at the end of every episode of Dungeons and Dragons, are you familiar with this cartoon, Ian, from the 80s? Okay, no. It's excellent. I own the DVDs box set, but basically, I've never played the game. I've never actually played the role playing game, but. It's just basically a bunch of normal humans, like 5 or 6 of them, get trapped in like this magical,
dungeon
fantasy world. Yeah, with like dragons and dungeon master and magic and all this crap. The premise of half of the episodes is they're trapped in this world and they cannot get home. But every once in a while, they'll find a way home. But then it's like maybe 5 of them will get through, but one of them will get trapped, so they have to go back. Oh, and then the door closes. And then a couple episodes later, something else will happen, but then, something happens. So it's kind of like, that they can never get back home, because if they get back home, the show's done.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Isaac. Maybe there'll be other episodes where he can almost get emotions or almost whatever, but if he ever does, that's kind of the end of his character.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
And
they
part
can't.
of the charm of Isaac's character is his naivety and
Yes.
his trying to grasp the human condition. And if you just make him human, he's just another dude.
Yep.
But
And
this gave us a glimpse of who that dude would be, and that moment or two of just his overwhelming, just pouring this emotion out was really touching. And I think that there is a vestige of that's going to remain. That's my prediction. And the fact that he was willing to erase all of his memories, I think that touches on that a little bit. Like, I think that there's some residual there, and that might have been the reason for that.
Because he actually says something like, it doesn't do anything for me, but I know that you want it.
Yeah, he couldn't remember how he
Right.
felt. He couldn't
Right.
remember any of that, but he remembered how Claire reacted, and
Yes.
it was clear to him how important it was to her.
Right, which was a really cool moment. Yeah.
And what's more, I think that this will... I'm going to assume that the relationship between Claire and Isaac is going to continue, and that she made a comment that the only way that she can have this relationship is that if she knows that he loves him, or that he loves her, essentially. And in a way, like, this sort of shows it, that even though he doesn't have emotions in a human sense, he is still able to express how much she means to him by, offering to make that sacrifice, even on a completely logical sense.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, when he had feelings and he was like, I love you more than anything else in the world. I was so over the moon elated, because a part of me was really worried that once he got human feelings, he wouldn't be like, it's logical to assume that he would just feel what his logical self dating Claire wasn't able to express. But I was like, oh no, what if they stupidly write him as, well, like feeling nothing for Claire?
Or what if he comes out in the wife beater again?
Oh, God,
Yes.
that was so funny. Yep. Never stops being
Did I
funny.
stutter? Oh man.
Okay, here's a little sub question. Has anyone else unsuccessfully tried to get people to watch the Orville like I have?
No.
I've been reasonably successful with it.
Okay, because when we started this season, I messaged at least 2 people who flat out refused to even give it a chance just because it's Seth MacFarlane, and it's really irritating.
Well, you got to stop mentioning Seth MacFarlane then.
Well, but there's no way around it, because they're going to find out in 2 seconds. Or they already know. They already know, right?
Well, nobody knows. Nobody's heard of the Orville except for us. That's why we're the only Orville podcast that exists.
Yes, this is true. What's another thing that and this has nothing to do with the Orville. You know what really drives me crazy is when I recommend a show to someone, and they're like, "Oh no, I can't watch it because of this reason," but you should watch this. And then you know what I say to that? No. If you're not going to watch my reco, I'm not going to watch yours. Yeah, but I don't like Seth MacFarlane. Yeah, but I don't like your thing. Sorry, go ahead, Jolie.
It just sounds like it comes out as adversarial in the wash, no matter what way you spin it to your friends. I don't know. I always lead with, do you like Star Trek?
Yeah.
No, you don't? Well, then you should watch the Orville.
Yep.
Yes, you do? Well, then you should watch the Orville.
That's
It
okay. That's
works
gonna be.
for both.
I'm gonna try that from now on going forward.
Yeah.
Yes, but leave Seth MacFarlane out of it. Or
There you go.
Do you like Seth MacFarlane? No? Well, then you should watch the Orville.
There you go.
Whatever their answer.
That's what I've been doing wrong all this time.
I don't know. I've never unsolicited, I've never given an unsolicited recommendation. It
Maybe that's-
usually just casually comes up in conversation.
I guess I'll have to start talking about Seth MacFarlane in casual conversation more often then.
Or you could just Sorry.
Start walking around in a union uniform
Yeah.
in your day-to-day life. Like what
That'll
your
do it.
pajamas? Like what are you wearing? Oh, let me tell you about this TV show.
I wonder if people have started cosplaying Orville characters yet. I mean, it has been like 4 or 5 years, so they should have, but
There have been a few.
I hope so. Anyway,
I don't know if you've been paying attention. I point them out every single time.
really? No, I haven't. No.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, Orville.
Next time we'll take pictures.
Sure.
I'm
Anyway.
gonna cosplay as Yaphet one of these days.
Oh, see, that would be awesome to just go with like a giant, not silly putty, but something, whatever the clear version of silly putty is, and just to drag it around with you. That'd be hilarious. I think people would appreciate that.
Slime.
Yeah. Yeah, there's I'm sure there's toys like that, like a kid's, right? Is that what it's called? It's a slime?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
You have nephews. How do you not know these things?
Yeah, I'm sure I've played with it before. But anyway, okay, I guess that's it. I guess we are done talking about this episode. Maybe we could talk about it all night, but at some point, there's other TV shows to watch, right?
I suppose.
Anyway.
No, this is
I know-
the only show that I watch.
I know Jolie's got one. Anyway,
What, Drag Race All Stars?
yes.
You want to talk about that now, or you want to talk about Big Brother? Because we can do that too.
Brother.
Hello?
any-
Hello?
Is there any Star Trek news? I know that a lot of people were recommending Strange New Worlds, but the last few times I've heard people mention it, they all say that Orville's better. So I don't know if you're watching it still, Jolie. Strange New Worlds.
I am, yeah.
Is it any good? I mean, I haven't, like, literally, like, since I jumped ship midway through, I think, season 2 of Discovery, I haven't given a shit about Star Trek, anything new. Same way that, like, I don't know, I'm done with it. I'm done with Star Wars. I'm done with all these old franchises just getting beaten to death with nothing interesting happening in any of them.
Yeah. It's what I wished Discovery was. Immediately off the hop. Like,
Yeah.
if you pretend that you've never ever seen an episode of Discovery and you don't remember what that disappointment feels like, when you watch Strange New Worlds, you go, wow, I never thought that in my heart I needed a television show that starred Anson Mount and Rebecca Romaine, but here we are.
Yeah, how is her acting, Rebecca Romaine?
It's wood. But she's
That's what I
got a
thought.
great
Sold!
she's
has
got
a
a
great-
great presence
Oh, I think you say
As-
ass. Anyway.
as second in command.
Okay. Anyway. No, yeah, I mean, eventually one day maybe I'll give it a chance. Sometimes I have this weird habit of like avoiding a show for like 20 years and then I'll go back and watch it just out of like, it's not nostalgia, but it's almost like the 20 years makes it more palatable in a way that I can like digest it easier, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just started Thundercats for that very reason.
All right. And it's
I'm
brilliant,
being
right?
serious.
Are you? No, because I have VHS tapes of Thundercats episodes. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. Next up, Silverhawks. Okay. Thank you for joining us this week. That was our review of From Unknown Graves. Every week, we review an episode of Orville in chronological order. I believe there are 4 episodes left of Season 3, and let's hope there's a Season 4. Cross your fingers. You can find every episode of our show at www.comicbooksyndicate.com. I want to thank G.I. Jolie and Champ Ian for joining me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Woo! And until next time, there's more where that came from.